was a man who had words and liked to speak them. In fact, one of the things he made us promise after the renovation was that he would be able to speak the first words ever spoken on the stage. And so that night, the opening night, no one spoke before Kirk, and he came out and he spoke. And it was, and lit up the theater that way too. And he was adamant. He was adamant that we support emerging young playwrights, that we do new work, that we be adventurous, that we be bold. And it's funny because listening to a lot of the memories people have had about him tonight, that sense of boldness, that sense of daring, that sense of doing things he wanted to do, whether the world thought they were the right at that time, certainly marked his life, and we felt that. The other great story here at the Douglas is that he and Anne came to every show for many, many, many years. And we never knew, some of us knew, but in general we never knew, and the actors never knew which performers they would come to. They weren't always here on opening night, but they always sat in the middle seat of the front row. And all of the actors that have come through here, Denai Guerrero, John Hurt, Dale Orlando Smith, they all have stories about the night they walked out on the stage, got ready to say their first line, and realized that 2 feet away from them, because in this theater the front row is literally on the stage, was Kirk Douglas. And all of them had to sort of get over that, oh my God, shouldn't you be up here and I be sitting? And they all have those stories of Kirk Douglas here at the theater, which were very special to them. At every one of those thousands of playgrounds they went, I think it was 1,000 playgrounds or something, he would always slide down the slide. Did you hear that story? Until he was 96. Did Tom tell that story? Until he was like 96, he was still sliding down the slide at the opening day. And that joy was very present here when he opened this theater, that sense of great joy and love for the theater and for what people for generations would feel going to the theater and going to theater here. Like, he loved it. He had us infectious. The last time would have been the special event in July of 2019, when his book of love letters between him and his wife was published, and there was an evening where Hugh Jackman and Hugh Jackman's wife played Kirk and Anne and read the love letters on stage. And a lot of his extended family was here. His grandchildren actually performed in part of that evening. And it was a sort of a meeting of both the theater crowd and the Hollywood film crowd to celebrate Kirk and Anne. And that was his last time with us here, which would have been July. I was today, like, I knew him in his context of underwriting and founding and supporting this theater and theater in Los Angeles. And then when I was hearing the obituaries on the radio on the way over there today, I was staggered by all they have done. He and his wife have underwritten and built 1,000 city playgrounds for kids around LA. He obviously made some of the most known movies of many decades, of the 50s, 60s. I remember him in The Man of Snowy River decades later, I think. And also in that story is the story of an immigrant, an immigrant to this country who started with really nothing and became this icon of force, and a force for good. His story about Dalton Trumbo, and basically Kirk's part in ending the blacklist of Hollywood because he demanded they put Dalton Trumbo's name on Spartacus as the writer after years of being blacklisted. And the success of that movie and the message of that movie sort of broke the blacklist. So I think his influence and his reach is almost incalculable. We are still trying to figure out exactly what we're doing, but yes, I think we will. We'll be in touch with the Douglas family, and we'll try and figure out what they want to do, and then we'll try and figure out what we want to do. This news is all very fresh to us, so we're sort of scrambling at the moment, but yes, we will certainly do something. I think they should watch his movies. I think they should, if they're interested at all, go online and look at the things that were important to he and his wife Anne, which included, as I said, this foundation that builds playgrounds, live theater. He also was a big, big supporter of the motion picture home for retired people from the motion picture industries. And so he had a huge charitable outreach, and I'm sure that the family would appreciate any donations to any of those causes that he was so involved with.
I'm the Associate General Manager for Center Theater Group. When we did the 10th birthday celebration for the theater, which we, by the way, did like a birthday with a cake shaped like the theater and games and pin the tower on the theater, he spoke before me. He spoke, and then I had to follow Mr. Douglas to introduce the next act. And I managed to get a few laughs out of the situation. And then as I was walking to his car, he said, Eric, I knew you were very efficient and a wonderful manager. I had no idea you were so funny. I know you were such a great actor. And then he wrote me a letter saying how much he enjoyed getting to know that new side of me. So, just being told by Kirk Douglas that you're a great actor and that you're funny was incredibly meaningful and a really wonderful memory. Well, I think in terms of his worldwide impact, you really can't underestimate the power he had when he broke the blacklist. I think that when he put Dalton Trumbo's name on Spartacus, that was such a tremendous act of courage in a climate of terror. And just his boldness and his audacity in doing that, I think really had an enormous and incalculable impact in ending a very dark period in Hollywood history. And I also think his movies defined a generation. He was the last of the living legends of the great golden era of Hollywood. And I think you take any one of his movies and it has been seen around the world and has been enjoyed by people worldwide. So I think he'll have a tremendous impact really through his entertainment and through the work he did. He also revolutionized the way actors think about being producers. He came on and became a producer of his own work, and I think inspired actors to realize that they could really have more reach than just as performers in front of the camera. For many years here, he came to almost every show and was really part of the family, and we will miss him greatly. And when he came most recently, the event over the summer, I was very grateful to see him again. And I remember as he got out of the car, and it had been years since I'd seen him, just kind of getting him out, and he was kind of being escorted to his wheelchair, and I just said, "Mr. Douglas, welcome home." And he acknowledged that this was in fact his home, and I'm very grateful to have had that moment.
Down the street.